Absolutely, and particularly this, as we go into the summer months, we'll find far more prevalence of more vulnerable road users, pedestrians, cyclists, e-scooters, a range of different people will be using the roads. With the dense, I suppose, intense sun that we've had in the last couple of days, it's really brought to mind that people need to make sure they have correct sunwear glasses or sunglasses with them in their cars. And again, at times, it is quite easy to be dazzled by the sun, particularly low sun in the evening times. And if that does happen, it's the very same procedure that if you were driving at night time and you got dazzled by headlights, you need to be driving at a speed so you're able to slow down, refocus, and again, just make sure you're at an appropriate speed for those conditions. So as the summer months go on, and if the weather continues as good as it is, we can all welcome a bit of good weather. We want to make sure people are well hydrated in their cars, guard against fatigue, make sure your car is, again, in good roadworthy condition, and just watch for those changes in weather as they go through the summer months, because we've had downpours, we've had, extreme heat, tar lifting on some of the roads. And then once that happens, you will find that over a prolonged period of dryness, there'll be a kind of a film of drops of oil or whatever from the cars end up on the surface. When it rains, then the chemical reaction to that is the road surface will become slippy for a period of time until the weather, I suppose, that washes it back off again. So look, there's a lot to think about for drivers over this bank holiday weekend. Can I also mention about the distracted drivers as well? Never hold or touch a mobile phone while driving. Always keep full attention on the road. And that goes back to that. If you're blinded, or distracted, it's only that few feet of moving over the centre line, or maybe moving into a hard shoulder and then coming in conflict with either another vehicle or a pedestrian or a cyclist. And we've unfortunately had those collisions over the years where people have been just out there and because of other factors, environmental factors like that, the weather, unfortunately they've come in conflict with drivers and cyclists and pedestrians, and unfortunately we've had serious injury and fatal collisions. So watch out for road users, give them plenty of room when passing cyclists. All road users should make themselves easily seen in poor conditions, or even going into the summer months. I would say even on the warmest of days, make sure that you are as obvious to everybody on the road. We mentioned the issue at the moment as well with a lot of motorcyclists as well. So the rule with the motorcyclists from the motor's point of view is look twice for that motorcycle, because they're not as big as a car or a truck or a bigger vehicle. And we want to make sure that from the motorcyclist point of view, make yourself as visible as possible. Drive on dipped headlights is the advice, even in the middle of summer. And also, as the weather gets hotter, don't risk your safety by, I suppose, dressing down. So what I mean by that is your safety equipment on the motorcycle. Even if it's the hottest day of the year, you need to wear your protective clothing, so that in the eventuality that you come off that motorcycle, that your injuries are not going to be as severe if you have the protective clothing on you.
Of course, no doubt we'll see throngs of people over the weekend out enjoying themselves. Eddie, it tends to be a weekend of festivities and of merriment, but unfortunately with that comes responsibility, and of course we'd be encouraging everybody to make sure that they've planned lifts to and from where they're going, and that no drink driving or intoxicated driving is taking place. Just a broad enough question on this, Eddie, because I think lots of our listeners will be curious. There's obviously never been more awareness of the dangers of drink driving or driving with an intoxicant in your system, but is that translating to, I suppose, a downward trend in this type of behaviour, or is it going in a different direction?
Look, unfortunately, I would have to say that there is still a large cohort of individuals who are drinking and driving or using intoxicant when driving. We're finding that at our checkpoints we're coming across and those type of offences. They are on the rise, I would suggest, which is a trend that we need to be very careful for. If we look at the stats over the years, the intoxicated driving is a factor in a very high percentage of road fatalities and serious injury collisions. So look, for this bank holiday weekend, absolutely go out and enjoy yourselves, but make a plan, make sure you can get home safely, and don't get into a vehicle with somebody who you believe has taken an intoxicant or has drink taken, because you're putting your life in their hands, which unfortunately is one that you will not get back if something goes unfortunately wrong and there's a collision. Finally as well, can I just mention about this time of year, a lot of agricultural vehicles moving around the roads of County Clare. We're in the middle of silage season at the moment. There'll also be slurry tanks coming out now onto the fields as well. So as you go around, you'll see there's high vegetation in some areas as well. So what I mean by that, the roadsides have grown in the last number of weeks in particular. So your vision is not as good as what it would normally be. You need to drive to those conditions. And I'm asking for look out for those larger vehicles and be aware that you may have to give extra space or your speed has to be reduced, particularly if there's working environments, silage activities or other. And then for the drivers of those large vehicles, you make sure that the warning lights are working correctly and that you have your flashing beacon on those vehicles serviceable, because that flashing beacon is probably the first indication a motorist might get that there's a larger vehicle coming on a narrow road. You might just get sighted that. The driver then should react to that and slow down accordingly, and everybody should slow down to such an extent that they're all safe to pass. And particularly as well with agricultural vehicles on the roads causing tailbacks. That's something that happens. It is the responsibility of the driver of the agricultural vehicle to pick a location, pull in and let the traffic off if it's safe to do so. And for the motorist to really be patient in those situations, because sometimes they may not know the road, but for locals that know the road, they will probably know that for the next 2 or 3 kilometres there will be no place to pass this vehicle safely or for that vehicle to pull in safely. So in those scenarios, people have to be patient, exercise restraint and hold back when necessary. We don't want people making dangerous manoeuvres to overtake slow-moving vehicles and risking themselves and others. So, we all need to work together when it comes to road safety, and particularly with this time of the year with a lot of agricultural vehicles out there. There's 2 sides to every story, and we want everybody to play their part.